Hello, this is 1 minute left, and it's been a minute since I've done a YouTube video, but I've gotten some upgrades, gotten to the end game here. We're getting pretty end game, but since the last video, I guess I'll talk a little bit about like progression path and some of the big upgrades here. So I came across an original sin. After you get original sin, you're using kind of Albrons and the Chaos Sword. When you get original sin, the first thing you want to do is upgrade your weapon. This is the weapon I put together. It's about the same price as the Chaos Sword. When you get the Chaos Sword, you pretty much want to get a Fractured Sword, get it enchanted, all that stuff. This sword costs about the same amount as the Chaos Sword, so it's kind of a one-to-one swap. You get Sin, and you want to get this sword from pretty much the people who are crafting elemental swords. Use their Veiled Chaos Orb, which are getting pretty expensive now, and accidentally hit Chaos Pen instead of Ellie Pen. This is perfect for original sin people, because the cheaper budget people who are like making their Ellie sword, if they hit Chaos Pen, it's not good for them. That's kind of a loss. They want Ellie Pen, but they would have hit one of these. And as people hit these, I told them, hey, sell this for original sin people. And what they basically have is, you can search for these on trade. You're going to hit the triple prefix now from the people who did the Awakener Orb. That was the Fire Stack mod, the 20% more attack mod, and then if they accidentally hit the Chaos Pen mod, now they have a triple prefix sword. You can buy that from them. This is exactly what I did for this sword. I did lock prefix reforged speed a couple times. It's 7 tiers of attack speed. I hit tier 2, and so 2 out of 7. Didn't take many. You could fill suffixes on accident and miss the annul. That's 120. I settled for tier 2. The nice thing about this is, if you go this route, you'll get the 3 prefixes, which are all attack tagged. It's the same as this one. No, this has the lightning damage, but the Chaos Pen has the attack tag. The 20% more has the attack tag, and the flat or the Fire Stack mod has the attack tag, and attack speed also has an attack tag. So something you can do here is, if you get that thing, you can go to the bench, and you can craft cannot roll attack modifiers. Put your sword in here. Items mirrored in this case, but basically, since attack mod is blocked, you can sit here and annul exalt over and over until you hit strength. I settled on tier 2, but it's pretty deterministic of a craft. And like I said, the total craft cost on this is only about as much as the regular Chaos Sword. So if you sell your Chaos Sword and have the Divines from that, you should be able to pull this craft off and get yourself a Fire Stack mod to pair with your original sin. It'll be like a 35% damage upgrade over the Chaos Sword. You can use the Chaos Sword to start off with original sin, but paired with this mod, it ends up being like a 93% damage gain when you go from Chaos Sword and Alberons to original sin and then the Strength Stack Sword. So it's a nice damage upgrade. From there, I'll talk through some of the other upgrades I've got, maybe just some quick rundowns on how to craft them. When I got original sin and got that 93% damage upgrade, you lose a little bit of stat from your second ring from Calandra's Touch. So you lose some life, you lose a little strength, you lose a little bit of tankiness from that. When I do upgrades, I like to get like an absolute win. I don't like trade-offs if I can help it. So sometimes if I have gear that is going to be a strict damage upgrade and then a tankiness loss, I'll try to pair that with an upgrade that is a big tankiness gain but a damage loss. And that's where the rare chest comes in. The rare chest is using a Sacred Chainmail. It's one of the new bases. It requires level 84, but these new bases have a lot of stats on them. So this one you can see has like 700 ES and 3,500 armor, I could get this rolled higher. But basically the way you do this is, especially after you get like Original Sin and Chaos Sword, because this gives you like, well, if you get Mirror Sword especially, you can get +1 endurance charge here. But crits are a big problem in the end game, especially if you're running like tier 17s that have 2 different potentially map mod increased effect crit mods. So when I'm doing like tier 17 maps, I'll get to mods that have like 130 to 160 increased crit damage and like 1300% crit chance, which is basically 100% since it's 5 base. So that's 70% crit chance at 2.7 times damage. You really need crit immune for that. One way to get that is either Corrupting Iron Fortress, or to get even higher, you can get the Endurance Charge mod here. So you get a Sacred Chainmail. From here, there's 3 ways to do it, basically. You can either go for the Recombinate Fractured Global Defense. You can do the same thing without the Grasping Mail mod, instead with the Fire mod, if you have a Sublime Vision. I'll talk about that next. Or you can just go instead with fracturing the Horror Essence, 10 extra crit per endurance charge, and fracture that instead, and then just dense fossil the prefixes. That's pretty simple to do. You dense fossil prefixes, then you lock prefix with fractured suffix, and then reforge fizz until you hit 8 PDR, and then you craft 6% attributes. If you go for the fractured prefix, instead, you're going to do suffixes first. So you're going to do a strength essence. Or no, excuse me, horror essence until you hit strength. Then lock suffixes and reforge fizz until you get 8 PDR. Once you have suffixes done with the fractured prefix. From there, the cheapest way to do it is actually tied in price with doing Bristle Matrons and reforge defense. It's the same price. You basically just do your implicit to prefix to where you get prefix from Eldritch Currency, and you do Eldritch Annul, Eldritch Exalt over and over until you hit like, you don't need double T1 necessarily, but you can hit like, top 3 tiers of both, and that'll get you like, 500 plus ES, 3k plus armor. And then after you get that, you're pretty much done, aside from if you want to go from the enchant for the defense modifiers. I settled on 8%, but I will go for 12 later. And then finally you want to do the implicits last, unless you're going for like the super big one with the gilded mod, because the prefixes you want to do with the Eldritch Currency, so you want to do implicits last so you can, cater to that. But I ended up crafting this. I got a little lucky. I spent like 220 div. That's a lot, but it's an endgame chest. If you want to go even bigger than this, there's a mirror one. I think Steve has a copy. A couple other people have a similar copy. It's not the hardest craft. It's fairly deterministic, but it costs around a mirror to craft anyways. To hit like everything perfect, 6 white, everything divine, 12% global defense, perfect implicits. Like, if you do all that stuff, it's like around a mirror anyways. So you could just mirror it. But one of the reasons that like the 6% reduced fire damage taken mod is so good, and instead of the mod I'm doing potentially, the Arctic Armor effect implicit is so good, is the next upgrade I've got is the Sublime Vision. So this is like the most end game giga tanky thing you can possibly do. It's it makes it basically so you only take fire damage. So you'll notice here I've got 30% of cold and lightning taken as fire. And then I have Tempered by War from Rakiata to get 50%. That's 80. You pair that with a Watcher's Eye, which is a new modifier that can roll 20. They both of them need to be perfect divine. And that's 100% of cold and lightning taken as fire. That includes dots. It's not just hits. It's all damage. When you have that, you actually only take fire damage. So you'll see here, I'm negative 20 fire and lightning, or cold and lightning res, but I'm 90 with some overcap on fire res, just passively. And I only take fire damage. And then fizz. So since you only take fire and fizz, that makes Arctic Armor very good. So this level 28 Arctic Armor is doing a lot of work. But this makes you insanely tanky, and it really frees up your suffixes, which is really powerful in a stacker build, to have your suffixes only need fire res. So, like, I don't even need fire res on gloves, which allows me to get an abyssal socket. But I do have fire res on belt. And it frees up jewel suffixes too. But the Purity Fire Sublime Vision setup is insanely tanky. Like, maybe I'll just do a quick demo here. If you don't really understand how tanky this makes you, just, like, watch this. Let me buy one more of these. Let me buy a decaying fragment here. Look. Now, obviously, this is a little bit cheating because this is a fight that does cold pen, but that's actually a good demo of one of the broken things about this combo. Is things like Shaper, for example, have penetration on their cold and lightning attacks, and Zeri has lightning pen on Stormcall. Penetration doesn't work if it's hitting you for a different element. So the 40 cold pen here does not work on your fire res. So you would think here that, like, oh, this is a really hard-hitting fight. Well, oh, why did that do so much damage? No, I don't know. But, like, this is pretty tanky. I mean, just look at this. This is not regular Uber Elder. This is 85s, and this is Uber Elder. It gets around a lot of pen in the game, and it's just insanely tanky. Like, this is... I don't think it's hard to get to the point where you can do this on a build. It's pretty difficult to get this much tankiness. But, I'll maybe talk more about this while these guys keep fighting me. So, one thing I have here is I've got some small cluster jewels. Since I have the Lake Simplex, which gives a lot of flat instead of the Influence, which gives a lot of percent, it makes my flat really high and my percent really low, which makes Wall of Muscle pretty good, but the Mirror Small is also really good. But I just crafted these with Wall of Muscle and going for like 35% with like just pure strength and attributes. So like that's pretty good. But or you could just get the mirror one. They're both valid, but I think you want to get a few of these to just take up points, because you kind of get to this point where you have this tree with splits where you want to get all of your points spent on like good efficient nodes, and it's hard to do that without smalls. I'll push these guys a little bit maybe. It's hard to do that without smalls. Why am I not doing... Oh. I don't have... I was using auto attack. Okay. Whoops. Oh, yeah, I took my sword off on the bench. Okay. But, like, look, this other attack of his that's deadly, yeah, this is all cold damage with 40 pen. It doesn't work on fire res. But, yeah, so... Smalls are an insanely endgame upgrade. Most people will not get the smalls, but if you do, it's actually kind of worth mirroring them if you get to, like, the super high budget. But if you don't want to mirror, it's still probably going to cost you like 200 div to hit a good one. You can go the Divine Teardrop method and corrupt one. If you do that, you want to fracture either strength or all attributes, because those have the biggest roll range. So you're better off getting that locked in, because it fractures it for the teardrop effect too. And then there's no roll range on the Wall of Muscle, and then the 35 effect only has 2 rolls, so it's easy-ish to teardrop. But... I mean, truthfully, it's really painful to craft smalls, and teardropping is incredibly expensive. You may just be better off mirroring or ignore until that. But as far as, like, using your talent points on efficient points, somewhere between 1 and 3 isn't, I wouldn't say needed, but it's really good. Like, they drop off in value after about 3, because after 3, you've kind of spent all your points on something kind of good. By the time you add the 4th in, it's still good. You could run 7 small clusters. It's just you start to take away progressively better points, so the trade-off keeps getting like lower and lower value. But yeah, the last thing I kind of got today was the +1 endurance charge boots. This is obviously like really good when endurance charge is the main defense. I have 9 endurance charges. This makes me pretty tanky. I'm also missing the mirror ring. I'll get the mirror ring next. I got the mirror sword, which is Cataclysm Slicer. And then there's a mirror ring too that has +1 max endurance charge, 7% strength. So I'll get that stuff probably in this coming week. But yeah, then the last thing you might notice here as far as my gear that might like stand out is I'm actually not using a Mage Blood. Mage Blood is still really, really good. I think it's fine to use. I think the only argument against Mage Blood, and kind of the reason that I'm not using it, is the Purity of Fire Sublime setup. Speak of the Devil. Nope, wrong prismatic jewel. Wouldn't that be funny if, like, live I just got one? Like, they're 1.5 mirrors, but wouldn't that be hilarious? Okay, well, I got complete garbage. But, yeah, so, I'll get out of here before I get distracted. But, yeah, I'm missing Mirror Ring still, but I'm not using a Mage Blood, and part of it is because with Mage Blood, like, the natural thing you want to do is just go, like, triple LE Flask and get 90 all-res. But, like, you don't need to do that. If you go Sublime, you don't need the triple LE Flask. You only need 1 res, and because you only need 1 res and you're using a Purity, you're kind of already covered on res. Like, there's all these jewels now that can give you +2 max res. Like, look at these. Like, you can just get +2 max res on rare jewels. And, like, I passively have 90 fire res. This is not with a flask. I just have 90 fire res. I'm actually over 90. I'm actually, like, look at this. Look. This is +1 max fire res. Let me inspect this. I'm still 90. Still 90. Like, so it kind of makes an argument against Mage Blood for me. I'm running some flasks right now that are uniques. I'm running a Replica Rumies to take advantage of Unstoppable. Because in, like, Delve or Tier 17s or even Valdos, this gives you, with an Enkindling Orb, making it last 8 seconds and have 2 uses. It's like 16 seconds of just taking half damage from, like, non-one-shots. And especially in Tier 17s, this is nice. You have to manually press it, but there's, like, the Tier 17 mod for remove 9% on hit that no gear or damage mitigation will mitigate. The only thing that works is getting hit less often. So things like evasion and spell block and stuff work, but you don't really have that as a jug, so this kind of gives you that to that unmitigatable, like, 9% remove, so I kind of like that. This is giving me Wither on hit with the Sin's Rebirth. Progenesis is obviously insane. I'm running a double on hit flask, but, like, if I were to just say I have 4 flasks that are double effect right now, I wouldn't really even know what to use them on. Like, would I use a Granite? Well, I'm already using this. Would I use, like, the only one that really makes sense is the Onslaught Flask. Like, this doesn't scale. I don't need the Ruby Flask. Like, yeah, I would drop the +2 max res on the jewels and then just use the Ruby Flask to get 90 all res, but, like, as far as the value you usually get from a Mage Blood on a build, it just feels kind of low. So, like, I don't think it's wrong necessarily, because you can shift things around with Mage Blood, that you do gain some things back. But at least for now, I'm going to use a rare belt. And I think I'm actually going to continue to use a rare belt, because I think I'm going to craft this into, like, an insane belt later and just stick with rare belt. But yeah. So, just a couple other things I'm going to talk through here. There's the super endgame tank jewels that are the Indomitable Flesh Flame. They're very expensive, but it's very good. Like, when you're insane gear, you just have a billion DPS, and you don't really need more damage, so just taking 25% less damage is kind of OP. I don't know if I'll switch to those yet, but they're very good. I don't have them, though, because they're kind of pricey. Tinctures you can use with the non-Mage Blood setup, especially, because you're not really, like, you kind of want to take Progenesis. You don't want to drop Progenesis. It's like the best flask. So, as a life build. So, like, you know, it does open up tinctures, but they're not, they really are only just giving you attack speed. It's not insane or anything. But, just a couple other points to hit on here. There is an Inquisitor version of the build that has a different mirror sword. It's got hybrid strength and instack on a double stack implicit. And that version of the build is, it doesn't have all the immunities that Jug has, but it has, like, double the DPS. So it's, like, pretty good in Delve. There's someone who's already, like, well past 6k with it. It just does a lot of damage. But, so if you want to play the Inquisitor version of the build, there's a mirror sword for that available too. Kind of address a couple things of, like, what I'm going to do just upcoming here. One kind of fun, wacky thing I'm doing right now is I'm going to see how deep I can get in Delve Deathless. I've been streaming all my Delve. Obviously, I'm incredibly shallow right now. Like, 930 is not that much. Like 1100 is about 40% monster damage of what 6k is. But I'm gonna see how deep I can get without dying. I'm gonna see, like, I don't think I'm gonna get to 6k, but like when I was testing this build last league, I did a 300 deathless streak at 5k. So it's certainly possible to be down at like the 5,000 depth and do several hundred deathless. So I'm just gonna see if I can play really, really careful and just see how deep I can get deathless. And so I'm kind of just doing that as a fun challenge to see how deep I can get. There's almost no chance I get to 6k, but I think it's not a 0% chance. And just the fact that it's not a 0% chance, I think is kind of crazy. But and we got a Darth microtransaction raid right as we're outroing this. But last thing, Gauntlet's coming up. I don't think I'm gonna do Gauntlet. The reason being is because for me to actually do Gauntlet and enjoy it, I would have to take some time off work. And taking time off work for Gauntlet would mean less time off for beta. So since November 15th is PoE 2 beta, I'm going to choose to prioritize that because I want to go really hard on PoE 2 beta. So I don't think I'm going to be doing Gauntlet. I'm just going to kind of sit back and watch, take it chill. And then I'm going to go really hard on PoE 2 beta. So, no, I'm not doing Gauntlet, but I've been working with a more skilled hardcore player on some potential winning Zenith combination that we'll see if it can win the Gauntlet. So maybe I can do something vicariously through a more skilled hardcore player. But yeah, the last thing maybe, I don't want to get people's hopes up too high because I have to test a lot, but maybe it's not totally dead. There's a different angle to Mana Forge Arrows that I'm going to explore. We'll see how that works later. I'll catch you guys next time.